Hey, and welcome to day 4 of the challenge. This is the day that we are going to get a little bit of creative. We're going to invent something short, simple, and sweet at the piano, and then I'm going to take you over to a program called MuseScore, and we're going to practice how to actually take the idea that you wrote on the piano and put it on an online downloadable music staff program. Really fun to do and useful as well if you want to get creative and learn a few things about music theory. So let's get started. All right, first things first, we are going to record a short little ditty on the piano. We're going to just make something up. I'm going to have a little bit of an improvisation session, a little bit of a creativity session, and I'm going to keep this part of it short because I want to show you how to import this into MuseScore and how to actually turn this into actual notation, because it's kind of a fun thing to do, and learning MuseScore is really useful. It's a really useful free online program. So the first thing we have to do is write something. Now, I'm not going to suggest you write anything complicated. I would suggest that you write something along the lines of what we've been doing in the previous days. So we've really just been working with repetitive patterns. One thing I would encourage you to do is, if you can find a way to use the damper pedal, it's going to sound a little bit more fancy. Playing something, or you could go in the opposite direction and play something hoppy, but I'm just going to write something right now. I'm going to hold the damper pedal. I think I want to do something with chord shapes, which we were kind of looking at a little bit yesterday, and I was liking the sound of that. So I think what I'm going to do, and you don't even need to know what chords are, but all I mean when I say chord shapes are these, like the pattern of notes where I have like a gap in between the notes so they're not all right beside each other. So starting on C, and then each note has a gap. So what I might do is I might play something like that with like a little bit of a pause at the top of each note. So on the top note I'll pause, on the top note I'll pause, and then where am I going to go from there? How about I go... I don't know, something like that, really simple. So all I did is I did a pattern that started on C, then a pattern that started on D. I kind of like that, but I wanted to return back to my home bass sound on C, and then maybe carry that over to F, which is a bigger jump, but still use the open shape. But that doesn't sound like it's quite finished yet, so I'm wondering how to kind of close this idea off. I have da 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 ba da da ba da da ba da da ba da, and I go to F. I could do something like, ooh, I like that, where I'm going the F, then the G, and then back to the C, because that's what makes it sound complete. So this is going to be the short little idea that I wrote. I'll do it one more time, then we'll hop over to MuseScore, and I'll show you how I would input this, and I'll encourage you to do the same. There, nice and simple. If you go to the MuseScore website, you'll be able to download their free program for your computer, and we'll get started. So I'm going to just create a new score. I'm going to call it Random Piece. I'm not going to give it anything anything fancy right now. Now, to set up your first music, I use both hands, which means I'm going to be using the grand staff. That just means we're going to have the right hand clef and the left hand clef happening. I'm not going to have any sharps or flats, so that's not something I'm going to deal with. Now, all of this, we're not going to worry too much about. This is just your time signature. Not going to talk about that today. I think the number of measures that I did is probably not quite 32 seems like a lot. Like, I can always add later, but I'm just going to go with 16 for now. And then there we go. I have my score for Random Piece. So the first thing that I'm thinking, okay, well, I did a C, like a C, and then a gap, then an E, then a G. So I went C, E, G in the left hand, then C, E, G in the right hand. So what I want to do is I want to write those notes. Now, kind of a fun thing about MuseScore, I'm going to start writing notes by hitting the note button. It defaults to a quarter note, so that's what I'm going to use. If I hit the letter C on my keyboard, it's just going to immediately give me a C on the screen, which is really cool. So I don't even necessarily need to know where the notes go because it's going to give me the right note. So here we go. In the left hand, I'm hitting a C. All right, so I'm going to hit my C. There it is. It just appears. I hit the letter C on my keyboard and it showed up on the staff. So glorious, so useful. Great way to learn music and how it's written on the staff. My next note is an E, then a G. And then I basically did the exact same notes in the right hand. So I'm going to click over to the next bar in the right hand to do my next set of notes. So I did C, E, G. Now what I'm noticing from the sound of this is that I definitely didn't play them this high on the piano. Like the sound wasn't that high pitched. So what I can do is I can actually lower the pitch of this C, E, and G. All I have to do is hold the control button. I'm using PC, and hitting the down arrow. And voila, I have a C, E, and a G. Now they're at a kind of closer octave to the original notes. So my pattern at C, E, G, C, E, G. And then the next set, I went in the left hand and I did a D, then a gap, then an F, then an A, and then I did pretty much the same thing in the right hand. So I'm gonna write that D. Good, and now they're showing up in the right spot. And just for fun, my next pattern was exactly the same, so I just did C, E, G again. So I'm just gonna copy this, copy all the notes and paste them, and then I don't even have to re-enter them, so that's super convenient. And then what I did is I finished it with an F pattern. So I just hit the letter F on my keyboard. Now that I didn't, I'm noticing that's higher than some of the left-hand notes I've already done, but I know when I did it on the piano, I did it much lower. So I'm just gonna bump that down an octave. So I went F, I went A, C, and then in the right hand I did like the little top F. So I don't want to figure out, just being brand new to MuseScore and this little experiment, I don't want to figure out how to get that note in the right spot in the right hand yet. So I'm just gonna write that top F in the left hand for now. I mean, I'll figure it out. This is my music, right? So then I'll do the G pattern. Now I'm using the low G, G, B, D. Now, when you're writing your song on the piano, you're gonna have to really think about, okay, what letters am I pressing? And then when you're hitting the buttons in the keypad on MuseScore, you'll have to make sure that you're hitting the right letters. So this is a really good way to also practice your keyboard geography. I know the top note I did was G. Whoop, I hit the wrong one, backspace. That's G, I hit an F by accident. And then I finish with, you know what, I'm just gonna finish with that C pattern that I already copied and pasted. So there we go, that's my entire piece. I have some extra measures, so I'm just gonna select them and delete them because I do not need them. Oh, so right click, should pop up delete selected measures, there we go. And there's my random piece music. Now, this is really squished together. So what I'm gonna do is make this a little bit bigger, so not everything is crammed on one line. So I'm gonna take, in the category of breaks and spacers, I'm gonna take this little spacer thing. I think I'm gonna put it after the Ds. I think that would be a nice place for it to start a new line. Whoa, why didn't that carry over? Let's try that again. There we go. There, now my piece is divided in 2 lines. It's a lot easier to read. So, just to give myself a little bit of a clue when I print off this music and go try it out on the piano, I'm going to hit Control-T, just creates text, and I'm going to write down the letter C to remind myself, okay, this is the start of the C pattern. I'm going to do the same thing here. This is the start of the D pattern. Over here, this is the start of the C pattern, and then I'll finish through the end. So this is F, the F pattern, this is the G pattern, and then I finally finish with the C pattern. So another note that I want to make to myself is that this guy here, I didn't want to figure out how to put it in the right hand, but I am playing it with the right hand. So what I'm going to do is just create a little text that says, in brackets, right hand. And I'm just going to move it a little closer so it kind of lines up nicely. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Just a note to myself, I mean, this is my music, so I can do what I want when I'm learning how to use it. Something like that, nice and simple. So as a final thing to finish this off, before I test it out and make sure it sounds right, is I want to make the notes less squished together. I want to increase the size so it's easier to read. So I'm going to go to Format and click Page Settings, and there's this fun little button in the scaling. I'm just going to hit that up once or twice, and this is going to make my music, voila, so much bigger and easier to read. I love it. I love how well that works. Now I'm going to test it out. I'm going to hit play. So make sure I'm at the beginning of my piece. I'm going to hit this play button, and here we go. there we go. And that's more or less what I had played previously. Just to finish this off once and for all, I'm going to click the export button because I want to save this as a PDF. I'm just going to save this on my desktop perhaps. We'll save it. I already have a file called this. That's okay. I'll replace it. So now I have a PDF printout of my sheet music and I'm good to go. I can print it out. I can take it to my keyboard and mess around with it. So be creative. Doodle something on the piano and see if you can just try to input it on MuseScore. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to start learning this very useful program. And I'll catch up with you tomorrow.